What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Unleash Potential podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Haji, alongside the boys, Mr. Jabbar, Guled, Almi and Hassan. I always buckle every 2 seconds, every couple of weeks. Almi and Hassan, which one is which? But mashallah, I've always been, man. It's been over a week in Ramadan. Time is flying, man.
Time's flying, alhamdulillah.
Everybody's energy is low.
Oh, it's down here.
No coffee. 10 hours of no coffee,
How are you doing without coffee? I know
Mate,
you have one.
These two.
Mate, headaches kick in at 12, 4 and 8 in the morning.
Hey, that's how
My headache kicked in the first day,
Yeah.
the morning, right? Because I
You
usually
start with-
have coffee
yeah,
in the
yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
But then I realized, we can switch it and just have it at nighttime. So I have it just to keep me going during Taraweeh. And then I have a
But
second one.
Doesn't it keep you awake?
What about
man.
suhoor? In the morning.
Suhoor, it'll just dehydrate me.
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, just drink a lot of water. Yeah,
True. That's true.
Yeah.
No, so I have it just for Taraweeh and then it should be fine.
Should be fine. Like after your meal, huh?
The problems of coffee lovers.
Yeah, man. I don't have that
I
problem.
don't have that problem
I
either.
have that problem too, bro.
Like coffee, tea, they're not really big in
Tea is a
big
different
with
story.
me. You?
I gotta have a tea. Like in winter. Come on, man. How much tea do you drink in winter?
Chocolate.
Oh, chocolate.
The thing is, it's not in your culture. That's why.
No,
well,
tea.
tea is.
Oh, tea's
big time.
tea.
Yeah, of course,
And
tea
coffee.
is big in
Sure,
your
yeah.
culture.
Nah, coffee's not big.
No, but
Coffee is...
Oh, bro.
Yeah, but it's
it is.
not big. It's
It's
not
all
ingrained
good
with
way
your
of
Like the
culture.
Ethiopian style bunna, bro. That's
That's-
like something.
There's a whole
some-
ceremony when it comes to
Yeah.
coffee.
With like the little table and the little popcorn,
Yeah.
and all that,
Everything.
you know?
Popcorn.
but for me, I don't know, tea, coffee, not never really been big. But besides that, man, how you guys have been dealing with work and schedule? Have you guys been finding that routine?
Yeah, I found that I can sort of maintain a streak of certain ibadat.
Yeah,
Like,
Mashallah.
the sunnahs, for example,
Yeah.
reading Quran, certain pages, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just certain things. But
And you've kept it from day one.
alhamdulillah, I have.
Inshallah, I think we might have to have a reward mechanism for him between
Coffee,
us.
coffee.
Yeah.
We'll buy you your first coffee on the day if you maintain it for the month.
Inshallah.
At a coffee place of your choice. Different
Some
places make
nice,
different
you
coffee.
know.
Come on, we can do better than one coffee.
Some $8 coffee, man.
Guled's already been supplying the coffee every single Sunday anyway, so...
Glad is different. He's got a tab running. But yeah, on Eid we'll buy you your first coffee if you keep it.
Inshallah, man, inshallah. But yeah, man, I've just been doing it for myself, man, trying to maintain a streak of certain ibadat and making sure that they're small and just keep it going.
Small and
It's-
consistent.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
the ones that are the best and most beloved to Allah.
Yeah.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala. But man, this week, what we've decided to do is a couple of weeks ago on the Instagram post, we put up a post asking for suggestions on what our viewers and listeners would like to see us talk about.
Yeah, like the
during-
feedback.
Exactly. So today we're going to be addressing some of those questions. I've got a whole list of questions here, and I'll be shooting them around, regardless who wants to answer them first. If anybody wants to answer it first, if not, I'll just pick and choose, and then we'll have a quick discussion about it and see where we go from there. We'll jump straight into it.
Let's go.
Let's
go.
Christ, man.
Question.
Bismillah.
So you've just shortlisted most of them?
Most of them, yeah, because quite a few of them are repetitive or very similar, so it will be answered together.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
And sometimes it's just a different variation of the same question. So it will get most of the important ones out of the way, inshallah. First question being how to maintain good habits after Ramadan has finished. We've talked a little bit about it.
Talked a lot about it
last week. But for somebody who's picked up new habits or who's really highlighted new habits, how would they maintain the good habits after Ramadan has finished?
That's a struggle one. I even struggle with that. But I think environment, peace, friends,
Yeah.
the people you hang out with. You are who your friends are. So if you sort of hang out in the right environment area with the right crew,
Yeah.
they'll lead you in the right direction. Even though you might have bad thinking, but you're not going to do it because the majority for that group
I'm not
wants-
doing it.
are not doing it. Yeah. So I think for me, I think that's the biggest one. And secondly, trust in Allah. Having faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He's the best of planners. Yeah.
I think also like the answer lies in the actual question itself, because the question is saying how to maintain. So they're already doing it,
Yeah.
and they want to maintain it after Ramadan.
After Ramadan, yeah.
Which means that whatever you're doing in Ramadan to keep the streak going or to keep the habit going,
Yeah.
continue to do that.
to-
Whether it's if you're staying in the right environment, continue to stay in that right environment. If you're listening to lectures in the morning that motivate you, continue to do that. Whatever it is, if you're getting up for Fajr and making dua, continue to do that. Because whatever it is that you're doing is working in Ramadan. And that's the whole plan of Ramadan as well, is to show you that, look, you can be better and you can do it and you can achieve it as long as you just give it a go. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to maintain it for 365 days a
Everyone
year.
struggles.
Everyone's going to struggle. Just like me, I don't expect my streak to maintain for 365 days a year, but I at least intend after Ramadan to actually maintain
Continue,
it. And the second thing that I would say is, like, get your mindset right. I know we put up a post recently about rebranding yourself during Ramadan. Making sure that you are considered an ex sinner, as opposed to someone who's sinning and trying to give up. So, for example, someone who wants to quit smoking, there's two types of people. One that view themselves as, I'm trying to quit. And someone else who just quit yesterday says, I have quit smoking.
I'm a quit.
Both of them are the same thing, but different at the same time.
The
mentality. When you rebrand yourself as someone who actually does a certain thing, right? So if you want to maintain the habit of salah, maintaining your salah, you don't say, I'm trying to pray. You say, from now on, I am someone who prays 5 times a day. And you keep that mentality and you keep that focus, and then eventually, inshallah, it will manifest itself.
And don't fault yourself if you trip along the way. And the one about the changing your environment or your friends, I think is really, really important for me, because a lot of times when either I ask people for advice or I give advice, and the question is, how do I stop bad habits or how do I change? First thing I ask is, look at your friends, drop your friends, and that's trying to change. But then maintaining, it's exactly what Ahmed Hassan has said in terms of rebranding yourself in your mentality. Because, like you said, somebody who says I'm trying to quit means I'm still allowing myself.
You're giving yourself that loophole.
Whereas I'm a person who's quit means like that's it.
I've shut the door.
A lot of them have that thought after Ramadan. Like, Ramadan's over, I can slip now. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as bad because Ramadan's over. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's Ramadan, I have to pray my 5 times a day. I have to do this. And then after Ramadan, it's Eid, I can celebrate. You slip here, you slip there. But it's like keeping that same mentality. Like, okay, now I got to continue doing this regardless of where it is. Like, that's who I am now. Like, having that mentality is probably the biggest key.
The other thing that I struggle with when I try to start a good habit or change a bad habit into a new good habit is, after a while of maintaining that good habit, that thought comes to you where you reward yourself with the bad habit. You know what I mean? It's like you're trying to, for example, you're trying to say, listen, I'm not money. You're trying to save, right? I'm not gonna go out every day of the week. I'm gonna go out once a week, right? Once a week, you stay home. You're good with your savings. Week 4 comes and you're like, hey, I've only been going out for a week. Let me reward myself. And you end up blowing what you saved for the last 4 weeks.
Not spending
just because you've been able to, you know what I mean? So don't reward yourself with what you're trying to get over. Reward yourself with another good habit.
That's absolutely true.
If you're trying to quit, for example, smoking, don't be like, okay, I've been good for 6 months. Today I want to buy a pack. You know what I mean? Be like, I quit smoking. So instead, I'm gonna go do something else. Go eat something good. Go do something else instead of rewarding yourself with a bad habit. I think that's something that makes you relapse.
So replacing that bad habit with a good habit.
It's hard, man. Come Eid day, a lot of people are already thinking about, and even me myself. I'm like, after Ramadan, am I gonna be able to maintain the streak or not? Or am I going to be able to maintain this person who I am? And elevate. And that's what Ramadan is about, right? Like giving you 1 month to train, so that you can go out into the world for the next 11 months and just use it to better yourself, not to go backwards.
You know,
that's the hardest part.
For example, right now in your case, you've set a goal to do specific ibadat throughout the day, or whatever it is, and you've got a streak, right? But then come Eid day, the 3 days of Eid celebrations, where you have no time, or you think, okay, I've been good for 30 days.
That's the hard one.
You give yourself that 3-day break, but then afterwards, life kicks in. You know what I mean? That whole Ramadan vibe is gone. So I think, even though it's Eid, like maintain whatever it is, like try to find time. You know what I mean? Like if you read 4 pages after every salah, bring it down to like 1 or 2, but keep that habit going, you know what I mean?
But also, one more thing I like to put in, the stuff that you are maintaining now, if you actually dive into what, like exactly what it is, what is beneficial for you, it makes it easy to continue. Because if you're just reading 4 pages of Quran just to read 4 pages of Quran, it's one thing. If you're reading 4 pages of Quran and looking at the meaning and trying to implement it makes it so much easier for you later on to continue reading the Quran. If you know why you're praying and you're actually concentrating on your prayers, it makes it easier for you later. Because later on when you're not praying, you're like, I'm missing that connection. You know, I'm not having that meeting with Allah like I normally do.
Exactly.
So now you're going, okay, like I'm running late, let's go. Rather than it's just going up and down that I'm used to 5 days a week.
So there's no point learning the whole Quran and not knowing the meaning. So you're better off learning Surah Fatiha and knowing the meaning. That will affect you more, I reckon.
So when you're
That's what
praying,
Jabbar's
if
saying,
you're praying and you know the
When
meaning of
you're
Surah Fatiha.
you're pondering and you know every ayah and stuff, what it means, you know?
Yeah, I think both of you guys raised really good points. Actually, all 3 of you guys. But the one that sort of I would take into account is altering your goals after Ramadan, because Ramadan is a special case. You're more able. There's just so much barakah in it. You're more able to do so much more, right? Especially now that you cut down eating.
Yeah.
But once you introduce eating, that means you introduce cooking. You introduce, shopping, all these other things that just eating
out the other day or whatnot.
Exactly, and the whole celebration of Eid. Yeah, you got to start thinking about, okay, what am I going to do after Ramadan, and alter your goals so that it fits within your lifestyle, so that you're maintaining the good habits, but you're not over-exhausting yourself.
Don't bite more than you can chew.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Also when the shaitan's out, man. So when it comes out of the Jahannam,
Yeah, and then it comes out hard.
Comes out fast, man.
But I wanna.
What are you coming fast?
That's why you gotta have mentality. The shaitan's coming, you know. The guys talk smiling there, bro. Shaitan's coming, you know.
So you gotta defend.
You have to have the defense.
Build your shield now, you know.
So build the shield.
So Ramadan is that period where you're building that shield, so that doesn't
Build that wall.
build that wall.
We'll move on to the second question or the second point.
Let's go.
Things that can break your fast. What are some things that can break your fast?
But there was a post circling around, like this whole list. I think there was like around 30 of the, like a lot of things that people thought was going to break their fast.
Yeah.
Actually didn't, and then
Like
the evidence that was
eating and stuff like that.
that was around it.
Let me ask you a question. Obviously sorry, but for things that break your fast, I see a lot of maybe mum sisters when they're cooking, they put their finger in, taste it. Does that break your fast?
No, as long as it doesn't go past the throat.
As long as you don't swallow.
Yeah, on the
That's
tongue
fine.
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's a little taste, man.
So there's, from my understanding, there's only a few things that break your fast. It's food or anything that goes that is
Food, drink,
ingested through the mouth or then passes the throat. Water as well, so medication, all of these things that you ingest, liquids. Vomiting, I think. So if you vomit,
So
then
you're sick, you shouldn't.
that intentional, yes. Unintentional, I'm not 100% sure. But I know vomiting in
but
general.
with food, there's unintentional is fine.
Just
if you sip, like if you completely forget and you take a sip of water and halfway through you realize, oh, I'm fasting.
Or someone feeds you
I
fine.
know what you mean.
Before we go any further, just to disclaimer out there, we're not ulama, we're not
scholars.
We're
not, definitely.
This is a discussion that we're having between us.
So food. Okay, we're only speaking intentional here. Because you're right, and that's a good point. Is that if you unintentionally, say for example, you see a banana right in front of you, and you unintentionally take a bite out of it and you swallow it, you haven't actually broken your fast. What you've actually done is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has rewarded you, and He's given you, because He's favored you, by making you forget, and you've actually nourished yourself. Food, water, sexual, what do you call it? Sexual relations.
Permitted sexual relations.
Yes, permitted sexual. Oh, I need
whether it's Ramadan or not, whether it's Ramadan or not.
Get it detailed there, boy.
We would have during Ramadan, you stay away from it, even coming close to that. There's also like masturbation and stuff like that
Yeah.
as well. What else is there, man?
I think the scary ones that people got to think about is like, for example, if I'm fasting and I'm, making you have a hard time while I'm fasting, all my efforts are going towards you right there. Like a portion of my deeds are going straight to you. Like, like I'm working hard for what? You know what I mean? So when someone's fasting and they're putting someone else down, like, oh, leave me alone, or you're telling your wife to go in the kitchen and cook, and she's like, give me a hand, I'm tired, and you're like, nah. Like, that is not actually like breaking your fast, but that is reducing.
So
Oh, if you're not praying your salah, stuff like that, it's like, what's the point of your fast? Because you know what I mean, like, that's detrimental.
Technically you should still fast because you're maintaining the pillar
but
of Islam, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to salah, which is it's it's also a fard, right?
But
But-
it's not
No,
breaking
see,
your. That's what I mean.
It doesn't break your fast.
But it's taking away from
there's
your
difference
fast.
between your fast being accepted and your fast being broken.
Yeah.
If you're fasting and you're not praying, or you're causing havoc and all these things, then
That's right.
You've benefited nothing.
Your fast is in doubt of expecting.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
if your
you-
but Allah A'lam, but even if your fast is accepted, but you've done so much that has been taken away from you, what are you left with? All that effort in for
Nothing.
what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that doesn't mean that
It's
okay. So
broken.
now that you don't pray, don't fast.
Don't
No,
fast.
you
Yeah.
still have to fast.
Yes,
of
But if you want to maximize your ajr,
you have to pray.
yeah, exactly. So there's only a few things that break your fast, and you can find that information pretty much
Exactly.
anywhere.
As far as we know,
But the things that don't break your fast, and I heard a lot of people sort of say, is like, brushing your teeth with toothpaste and
Yeah.
mouthwash and all of these
Are you-
things,
are you
as long as
drinking-
it doesn't go past
Are
the
you
throat.
Drinking the
Exactly.
toothpaste? Like,
Come on,
man,
mouthwash,
like-
mouthwash and stuff,
Yeah.
because you're gargling it, so they
Yeah.
think, no, then that stuff doesn't break your fast. What other sort of things that you heard, like the tasting of
Yeah.
food?
That one.
What about najasa? No, that's
But I think that the rule of
just breaks your
ingesting
wudu,
kind
bro.
of like covers all of that. If you're not
Yeah,
ingesting
anything
it,
that's being
you're fine.
ingested.
Okay, since we're on this topic, let's take it a bit further. Instead of what breaks your fast, what scenarios are you permitted or not obligated to fast?
Well, if you're a non-Muslim, you're not obligated to fast.
You're not obligated to fast.
Unless it's in your book, then that's a
You're
different story.
Yeah.
Traveling,
If
you're
you're
sick.
traveling, if you're
For
sick,
the ladies,
You're
That's
sick
right.
for
and if you're on,
pregnancy.
Yeah.
And,
Pregnancy,
No,
breastfeeding.
not even. Sorry, it's pregnancy. They still fast,
No.
it depends.
but at certain stages.
Yeah.
Because
pregnancy.
they'll be considered as someone who's ill, basically, someone who's sick.
If it's the first couple of weeks or month and you're able to fast, then fair enough.
Yeah, it
But if
depends on
not,
the person.
yeah.
Yeah. I know
if
some of my
you're-
aunties when they were pregnant, they would, they would abstain from fasting, and some of them, it depends on what stage
Like my
they were
father,
at.
even though, like, I
was
remember, no, we were traveling. No, we're traveling. It's a different point. We were traveling, and even though travel nowadays is easy because we're in a plane, he'll still make us fast. You know what I mean? Even though you're.
I think
allowed
it depends on the
to make
distance. The
fast.
distance you're traveling. The distance. You're
No, but
traveling.
No,
he's
we-
saying
So if you're traveling from here to Melbourne, you can still
No,
fast.
we're
You're not,
traveling from here to Dubai.
that's a different story because that's your 10 hours of fasting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So,
That's right. Like a lot of this information is available everywhere. Like
Everywhere, exactly.
Yeah.
even then, like you can go to your local sheikh and they will explain, like your local masjid, they will explain this to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find lectures online about all the rules of fasting, what you need
do you
to do.
still have that post?
Yeah, I can
You can
post it
find
up,
it and post
inshallah.
it up,
It's
yeah.
not that clear, but yeah, I can post it up because I'm part of this, Sydney group that
Yeah.
I don't know. I just haven't left this WhatsApp
Or
group for some reason.
we can
But
post a
mashallah,
more detailed one, a clearer one if that one's not clear.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we can
Just so we answer that question.
reproduce that information and then post that up definitely. But I think there was the ends in an ayah which وَإِن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, but if you fast it's actually better for you as well. So if you're traveling
Yeah.
and you have the option,
Especially
you have the
now,
physical capabilities and you're not sick or anything like that, then absolutely.
Like, if we're going to
Absolutely.
Melbourne, it's 3 hours. Like, come on, man. You can stay. You can
Yeah,
keep
you
your
can
fast.
definitely do it, man.
Next question. Or somebody's asking for a Quran memorization plan. How would you go about that?
I think the way I would do it is like Guled hit the good point of environment. Like there are a lot of places probably near you that you can find for males and females where you can learn the Quran. You
Well,
know?
if you're Somali, find a Duxi.
Be careful with that.
Okay, so
like, 'cause
let's
some of
assume,
but
let's
the-
assume
the
this
question
person
is-
is in a
is the
situation
question
where
saying-
they don't have anyone.
No, is the question saying how to memorize the Quran
The
or
question just says
or
Quran memorization plan.
Like a plan.
Just, okay. So
Memorization.
it includes
So
everything,
how to
environment.
physically memorize it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
How
I
would you
think.
Well-
Okay, so we'll let Guled answer this because he's part of the.
No, yeah, everyone.
Like he's
Well, I can only talk
actual
from
hafiz, so he
experience.
can
Yeah,
talk,
'cause,
speak
yeah.
from experience.
Yeah, well, when I was memorizing the Quran, I think the Sheikh, because obviously, the main thing that obviously the Sheikh emphasizes is the tajweed.
Yeah.
Because if you're not pronouncing the ayats right, then you're changing the meaning. So, and he specifically, there's a lot of Quran recitation sheikhs. They read fast, some read slow. So he obviously emphasized to listen to a sheikh called Sheikh Husri, which I listened to.
Sheikh who? Sorry?
Husri, Sheikh Khalil Husri.
Khalil Husri.
Husri, yeah, which he reads the Quran so slow that he doesn't miss any tajweed. And so when I was memorizing it, I would memorize it line by line, of the page.
Mm.
And when I hit 3 lines, I go back to the 3 lines again, read it while I'm obviously looking at the Quran, close it, and then read it again. If I'm making a mistake, only look at it. Only when you're making a mistake, then go close it again. Until you master that 3 lines, you don't start a new line. That's how I did it,
But also go back to it because a lot of people
Go back
like
to it.
learn the page
And obviously,
they'll go onto the other
when,
page and they'll forget.
obviously when
So
I was in
kinda like-
Africa, they do it here, but I think in Africa, because obviously they have Quran classes every day of the week. So one of the things that leads someone to not forget the Quran, they have these halaqats, sub'is.
Yes, yeah.
Where everybody reads.
Everybody reads the
and
ayah.
you carry on the following ayah.
So you're probably done.
That's nice, yeah.
You're probably up to the 5th juz. That whole week they're doing that 5th juz again,
Yeah.
while continuing on
On
They're sort of-
Yeah,
new
so they
stuff.
start
So
from
they
the
don't forget.
beginning and they
You
go.
don't forget.
The beautiful thing about that halaqa is like
Unbelievable. You don't
a
forget.
random ayah hits you every time.
A random ayah hits you first.
So
So you
you're
gotta-
forced to like remember,
Yeah.
and you're reading with everybody, and then you're like, all right, your ayah is next. You know?
Yeah.
And then so the next day when they start the same juz differently depending on where you're sitting, it's the same juz but different ayah again.
Yeah.
So it forces you to say.
So
And every month every month when the month finishes, so every time you finish a juz, the sheikh brings you forward and asks you 3 questions. And out of that 3 questions, you have to read at least half a page, seeing that you've memorized that juz. So he might pick an ayah from, say, Juz Amma, he might pick an ayah from halfway through Surah Amma, and he'll tell you continue until I tell you stop.
Yeah.
Then he'll ask you another question halfway through the juz, and in the beginning of the juz.
So you
can tell that you've
memorized
memorized
the inside.
Then
Yeah.
you can go to the next juz. Unbelievable. I think it worked out really well.
The advice that I would give is, firstly, not everybody is the same. Somebody's starting Quran from the beginning, and somebody's halfway through, somebody's 3/4 through. You've got people that only learn by hearing the Quran.
Yeah, how
and
you
they
learn.
can't actually read
That's right. It's important.
the thing.
Everyone's
the
different,
kitab.
yeah, absolutely.
So firstly, if you don't know how to read the kitab, I think your priority should be how to
Learn how to
read
read.
it out loud. So there's different methods, there's different books where you start your alif ba ta from the beginning and then joining it and then being able to actually open the kitab and read any way you can. I think that's the key thing.
Same as with the English language, you don't start,
yeah,
you don't
that's-
learn the alphabets in pre-primary.
Yeah,
you know?
that's the key thing
Yeah.
to memorization, because when you hear it, you should be able to read it. Yeah, when you read it, you can read it over and over again by yourself. Whereas listening to it, you won't memorize it. So if you're able to read what's on the kitab, then you set yourself, depending on your abilities, your time, 3
Memorization.
ayahs, 4 ayahs, 5 ayahs. Break the page down into segments that you can. Okay, if you decide 3 ayahs a day or 3 lines, as Guled said, per day, then you keep it going. I remember when I was learning the Quran, first it was small surahs, Qul A'udhu bin Nas, Qul A'udhu bil Falaq per day, right? And then it progressed to a quarter of a page, then half a page, then a full page. So the sheikh would come, he would read it one time for me, and then because I know how to read it, I can read it. Having heard it, knowing how it's supposed to be read, I would memorize it by myself. And then after that, it progressed to a quarter juz, a hizb, right? And then a maqra, sorry. And then 2 maqras make a hizb. 4 maqras make a hizb, and then 2 hizbs make a juz. So
And a juz is a chapter for those who don't know.
Juz is a chapter.
So then actually a maqra, sorry, an eighth. So 4 maqras make 1 hizb, 2 hizbs make 1 juz. And so then that's the way it used to go. And then that way I ended up flying through. But then obviously you build up
It's a
your
slow,
momentum.
but it's like a snowball down a hill.
Exactly. But the key thing that I would advise anybody who wants to memorize the Quran is learn how to read it. Once you learn how to read it, Khalil Husari is the best one, the best sheikh to listen to. A lot of the other sheikhs, they read very fast, whereas this sheikh, you feel like he's reading. You can literally hear every harf,
Letter.
the a, e, u, exactly the way it's supposed to be said. And from then onwards, push yourself. If you memorize 3 ayahs for a week, the next week make it 4 ayahs a week, and keep going. And that's the way.
I think really good points, man.
Yeah.
Inshallah, I will be adopting some of them as well going forward. But I think
mashallah.
the number one thing is to just start. That's the first thing I would say. Start.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the plan itself, right? Like you can come up with a plan and it will be perfect, but it won't be implemented unless you actually start.
The plan changes as you start.
Exactly.
As you start going into it.
Yeah, because then you know, you get a real
depends,
good feel
exactly.
for it. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe I can't memorize 4 ayat.
Yeah.
Maybe I can only do 2
Yeah.
based on my lifestyle and the way it is.
That's true.
So start first, see how you go, and then inshallah, prioritize as well.
Yeah.
Know exactly what stage you are up to. Are you
Yeah.
ready to memorize, or are there other priorities
Yeah.
that need to be met
Exactly.
first? The other thing is, if you have the option, then practice with someone, memorize with someone that can actually look at it while you're memorizing. Yeah. So someone who actually knows the Quran, has memorized it, or
Can correct you.
yeah,
Read out
can
loud
correct you.
around people.
Exactly, can actually correct you. The other thing is, I remember when we were studying, they would say, do it in the morning because your brain is a lot more alert, is more fresh, more focused. So pick a time. If the morning suits you, then definitely pick that time. But otherwise, pick a time when you know your mind is a lot more fresh, a lot more focused, and just allocate 1 hour for yourself, or even half an hour, whatever it is that you have, and just allocate that time specifically for you and your Lord, and you will, inshallah, you will
Benefit
flourish.
from
Yeah,
it,
you will
inshallah.
benefit. And the other thing, the last thing I would say is probably whatever you've memorized, try and say it in salah as well.
Yeah.
Especially in the sunnah salah.
Yeah.
Like we have a tendency in the sunnah salah, everybody reads,
Shortest surah.
the shortest surahs, just because it's sunnah, you want to get it out the way,
Yeah.
right? And unfortunately, even with the fard, we do that as well.
Yeah.
But try and actually memorize, like the stuff that you memorize, try and recite it in salah and see how far you can get, right?
Some of the ulama do say that Quran read in salah, you actually don't forget.
Yeah, so if you
Absolutely,
memorize in
yeah.
the morning
Yeah.
and you like do Qiyamul Layl, for
Yeah.
example, if you're starting in Ramadan,
Yeah.
you do Qiyamul Layl, then absolutely try and recite some of the
As
stuff
much
that
as you
you've
can,
memorized as much as you can, and then the next morning you'll find that it's implemented in your head
Yeah.
and you actually know it so much more.
And in Somali, we do say, like, there's no shame in in Quran. So whether you know 1 surah, 1 ayah, or 10 chapters, like, there's no shame, whether, regardless of. And the other thing is, if some people, like, the older they get, they feel shy to ask somebody younger than them to teach them. There's no age. It's in the mosque. If the imam is not there, the next person that gets pushed in is who knows the most Quran. Whether
Yes.
it be a 10-year-old, as long as he knows how to pray, whether it's a 15-year-old or a 50-year-old. Like, you
That's
go to some
right.
of the mosques, you got a 16-year-old leading the full Taraweeh and Qiyamul Layl because he's the Hafid. You know what I mean? So don't feel ashamed to ask for help from somebody who's younger than you. Just because
Absolutely.
they know more. There's
Absolutely.
no shame in Quran.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's ajr for everybody. So learn as much as you can and teach as much as you can.
Even with 2 things, what Umar was saying, it's salah, because obviously when you're praying, you're reading the Quran.
Yeah.
And if you're reading the Quran in the wrong way, it's going to affect your salah. So best thing is at least get the Surah Fatiha and the small surahs that you're reading the Quran correctly.
No, I'm talking about the sunnah, for example.
Yeah,
When you
memorization.
memorize
Yeah,
and then you're doing the sunnahs,
yeah.
then you know, like the stuff that you've recited, try them in the salah.
Yeah.
Obviously, we assume that you've memorized it correctly.
Yeah.
And so in the sunnah, when you're actually doing qiyamul layl, for example, you know, just try and recite some of the ayat that you
When I was in Africa, the Sheikh used to make us come just before Fajr. Read. He goes, I don't want you guys to have breakfast. Come before breakfast, because he thinks, well, he looked at it in a way when you're
full.
When you're full, you know, you're not thinking right.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Lazy.
it's actually correct. Yeah. When you're like, you just had no food and you woke up in the morning, your mind's fresh, not thinking about anything else. The morning is actually like it's got something special to it. Then that's when you do your memorization and read the Quran, you know. And then he sends you out, go have breakfast.
And if you want to have, that's actually true. That reward mechanism as well, that actually helps a lot. So if you want to have a little bit more barakah as well, because you try and tie it with other ibadat, right? So if whatever you've memorized, you try and pray it in Qiyamul Layl. So now you started praying Qiyamul Layl because of memorizing. That's tying it in. The other thing is, if you memorize like 3-4 surahs, give yourself a small goal. Say 3 surahs, right? If you memorize that, then by the time you've fully memorized it, treat your family. You know what I mean? On you, whatever it is that you can afford. Cook for your family if that's you know what you want to do. But tie it into other ibadat, but have a reward.
We used to have
mechanism.
it here. Like we used to have 4 houses, 6 different families, and we used to go to each house. And then as soon as one of the brothers or sisters finishes a juz,
There used to be a little party.
there used to be like a pizza.
Pizza
For everyone, you know, like based on making dua for that brother and sister who's just finished that juz.
Exactly.
And obviously, not a reward, but also a way of pushing others to reach that
motivating
level.
them.
Motivating
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
And one thing I want to put into the viewers out there, like if you know, if you read the Quran, like most of us do, you know, we know how to read it like with the melody and the right, tajweed and all that. The reward is there, but for the ones that struggle and don't know how to read, the reward is double. So try your best to, you know, put it in, because this month of Ramadan,
try to
is the best month.
read, because on the day of Qiyamah, on the day of judgment, when Allah says Iqra and you read, you'll be reading the same way you read on earth. So if you're someone that's just trying to go through, that's how you're going to be reading it then. If you're reading the words of Allah beautifully and slowly, that's how you're going to be reading then. You know what I mean? So beautify it, slow it down, makes it easier to memorize as well when you slow it down. Just like Guled said, like listen to certain sheikhs and stuff like that do read it slowly.
And there's a famous hadith obviously of the Prophet when he says, I think, the best of you are those who learn the Quran and then teaches it. So
Quran will protect you.
Just think about that point. The reward for that is immense.
immense.
That's why they say if you have a child, sorry to interrupt. If you have a child, you make sure that you are the first one to teach them Al-Fatiha as the most important Al-Fatiha, because every salah includes Al-Fatiha, and every salah they pray, you will get an ajr from it without reducing
their
theirs.
children. If they teach
And now imagine you teaching children Al-Fatiha, and they're not just your children, but other children's children, you know, other people's children, and so on and so on.
That they teach in.
Subhanallah, yeah, the reward is immense. It's
And then the
That's a gold mine, brother.
And the Prophet ﷺ said, he was talking to his Sahaba one day. This is just a little bit on this topic. He was talking to his Sahaba one day, and he asked them. He was talking about on the Day of Judgment how the situation of people will be, like people will be panicking and scared, and you know, it's a terrible day. And then he said, amongst them will be a group of people wearing crowns. Now on a day where there's no shade except the shade of Allah, people wearing crowns. So the Sahaba, they asked, Ya Rasulullah, who are these people wearing crowns, and what have they done to earn this favor? On a day where the sun is close and people are drowning in their own sweat, what have they done? And the Prophet ﷺ said, they were parents who took it upon themselves to make sure their children memorize the Quran.
SubhanAllah.
I mean,
it's amazing.
we take it so lightly, you know, like, but it doesn't mean you physically teaching the child Quran, but investing. For example, if you know the Quran and mashallah you can teach them, mashallah. But if you don't know the Quran or you don't have the time or the means, then invest in your child being taken to schools where they learn Quran, or the mal'amas, or you know, like for example, my dad, he sent me back home for a year, and I came back half with half the Quran memorized, and then memorize the other half here.
Far out, man.
It depends on what you can do, but the reward for that is immense. Like, you know what I mean? If
I
anything else-
wouldn't advise people to send their children overseas to
but
learn. But you know, everyone's
regardless,
different. But I'm just saying,
It
yeah.
worked.
Nah,
It worked.
it's
I know,
whatever.
I know.
You know what I mean?
But
Whatever.
that might be a
works
bit
for
of a
you.
costly method.
If they have the means.
Yeah.
If you have the means, if you've got the time, you know.
One of the sheikhs goes, you know how like obviously we invest a lot of our kids in schools. We have tutors coming home teaching them maths, English.
Yeah.
One of the sheikhs goes, if you actually invest in your child at an early age to memorize the Quran or to memorize as much as he can, it helps with his other education. It helps with his other studies. Because imagine this person memorizing 30 juz.
They got the discipline.
They have the discipline.
They
You're
have the
right.
discipline.
They know how to
They have the
learn,
discipline,
memorize. Yeah.
I mean,
The
you,
brain
And
capacity
pay
as well.
attention.
you tell your obviously your non-Muslim friends that I've memorized this whole book, because obviously you know the other religions have Bibles. I don't think they're expected to memorize it, but obviously you know you tell them that they'll be like, wow, your IQ is actually
It's a lot better.
a lot better.
So-
You know,
Expand your brain.
that's why at a younger age the kid is young, fresh.
They're a sponge, man.
He can quickly learn it. The amount of 7, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds I've seen memorize when I was in Africa.
No,
Unbelievable.
but the harder the older you get as well, the harder it is to memorize.
That's what I'm saying.
How
That's what I'm
fluent
saying.
you are,
The young.
regardless of how much time you have, if you get a 10, 11, 12-year-old and you get a 34-year-old, put them the same time.
Yeah, obviously, because their learning capacity is,
That's what I'm
is a
saying.
bit
So
less.
it's-
But
And it's also an
not
investment,
an
like as a-
impossibility.
No,
Like
it's
it's
not
not.
impossibility.
Yeah.
It's
It's not impossible.
You can
No,
still do it.
Not only that, I know personally some brothers that, you know, Australian. So like the language Arabic does not exist, right? MashaAllah, reverted back to Islam. Within 2 years, they're leading Taraweeh. Cover to
MashaAllah.
cover,
Yeah.
off the top. You know what I mean? So if you want to,
You can do it.
you can.
Yeah, well,
It's just-
the promise is there from Allah. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ.
Yes.
So, we have made this Quran easy for you to
Remember
learn
it.
it and remember it. Is there anyone that's willing to try?
Exactly.
Your
Exactly.
effort.
Yeah,
that
put in
counts.
effort. That's it.
Absolutely.
I've got the final question for the day, and it's come up a few times, and it's a pretty big one, and I think we're gonna have quite a discussion about it. How to boost your iman. How to boost your iman. Some have asked specifically in Ramadan, how to boost your iman when it fails. And if I start off just by saying that, firstly, knowing that iman needs to be boosted on a regular basis is a sign. Knowing that your iman falters, knowing that your iman is not ever going to be at 100% for anybody, including the Sahaba, except the Prophet ﷺ, is firstly, you're on the right path. Knowing that iman fluctuates, that's why we've got all these other attributes and acts and deeds to boost your iman exist. So I think number one is knowing the fact that iman will never be 100%. And that's why all these tests exist, to test your faith, to test your iman. In terms of boosting it,
I would
you
say
guys take the panel first.
Dua is probably one of the biggest ones, because a lot of people, the first thing they do, like they know they, like you said, they know their iman's weak and they're faltering and they're trying to do things, and just make dua. The first thing before you do anything, make dua. Ask Allah. He's the one that will provide. He's the one that gives you everything. You know what I mean? So like a lot of people don't do that. They don't. They'll go, okay, they'll ask, oh, Haji, how do I do this? How do I read this Quran? How do I do that? It's like, ask Allah first, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's probably the biggest key, I would say. And when you do make dua, beautify Allah, call Him by all His names, you know? So if you're asking for mercy, or Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, you know what I mean? So beautify and like, know your position. You're a servant asking, yeah? And then put in the effort. So whether you fail or not after that, you put in that effort, because at the end of the day, Allah will reward you for your intentions, you know, and that will boost your iman. And then the second point I would say, other than dua, is knowing that everything is a test. So a lot of the times people will look at their lives and let's say they pray their 5 times salah, they don't backbite, they don't, you know, put anyone down, yet there's trouble coming to them. They go like, why is this happening to me? You know, because it's a test of Allah. And that's something that you should say Alhamdulillah for. Because Allah is giving you this test that if you pass, He's going to give you more, barakah and everything thrown on top of you. So obviously, that doesn't mean if there's something going bad, it's barakah. It might actually be punishment if you're,
How you react to it is whether it's a punishment or not.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're patient, yeah, absolutely. Then it's a test, and you'll get through it.
Because
and you'll come out a better
there are
person.
people that say like, this is barakah, but they abuse their wife, or they don't pray their salah, and they go, Allah's punished me because of barakah. You know what I mean? Like that's not the case. If you know that you're on the right path, and then there is,
then it becomes a test.
Then it becomes a test.
Yeah. We're talking about things that come like that you don't have a hand in any control or whatsoever. Unfortunate things that just happen to you.
Like some people, something will happen, their money will go, and they'll be like, man, what's this going on? It's barakah. It's like, did you pay your zakat? Did you pay zakat? Allah's taking the money from you. Be cautious of it. So always make your dua before you do anything. Have that intention, have that thought process before everything.
I love it. That's good.
Because at the end of the day, taqwa is the consciousness of Allah, knowing that. So a lot of people, their iman will falter because they're not thinking right. When you know that no matter what you do on this earth, Allah will forgive you if you ask, no matter what. Like they say that if everyone here did everything perfectly, that good that is given is a fraction of what Allah can give.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You cannot dent in Allah's mercy by asking. It is nothing for Allah. Allah just says ask, and if you ask, with the intention, it's forgiven, clear.
Yeah.
So if you know that, if you know that's what you're supposed to do, and you know obviously the path you're meant to take to correct yourself, then like you said, your man will falter, but you always put it back up. You'll always boost it back up because okay, cool, this is a test, I can be forgiven. I know it's a test. Let me make dua. Let me ask for forgiveness, and then just start working on it, because then Allah forgiven you.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people they do wrong, and then they don't want to turn to Allah because they go, Allah, I might not be forgiven because this is the 10th time I've did this thing. I asked for forgiveness last night, and I did it again. So they feel shameful. If you don't feel that shame,
and that's the Satan's greatest trick.
Yeah, and that's the shaitan pretty much whispering in your ear.
Yeah.
So.
What about you guys? What do you guys think? How can you boost your iman?
Boost, huh? You said boost, I think something else, but
He's thinking about his cars, yeah.
Man, Abdul Jabbar pretty much cleaned it all up, but you want to boost your iman, just do whatever you can for the sake of Allah, man. That's what
Intention.
It's all about just the intention's there, dua, and then just try to put in the effort. No one's perfect, man. All of us sitting here are not perfect. Just put in the effort. You miss Fajr, just pray Dhuhr.
Chug along.
Just chug along, bro. Just keep pulling, man. Allah is there with you, and that's everyone's different, man. I can't tell this one. This is. If you do this is going to boost your iman. Everyone's different, bro.
Yeah, in that sense, some people will
boost.
boost their iman when they just look at the miracles of this world.
Yeah,
some people just that's an act of worship as well.
I guess everyone has their weaknesses.
I think there's a base denominator though for everybody.
So
there's one
for me,
ground.
what I would recommend is, first of all, the Prophet ﷺ was asked, "What is iman?" And he gave 6 pillars.
Yeah.
So let's use that as the foundation. The first pillar is, by the way, iman means faith.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, the Arabic language as much. So he gave 6 pillars. The first pillar is an tu'minu billahi. So if you take just that one aspect, that you believe in Allah, what does believe actually mean? To believe something,
Full
you
trust.
need to know. You need to know Allah. So maybe for you to boost your iman, you need to get to know Allah a lot more. So you need to know His 99 names. Maybe you need to pray a lot more so that you can get to know Him a bit more. Maybe you need to see things into perspective, like Jabbar said, so that you actually know that this is a test. So maybe you need to listen to a bit more lectures, just so that you can. Maybe you need to listen to the Quran just so you can get to know His words. Try and learn the meaning. So get to know Allah a little bit more. Know what each of His 99 names actually mean. Understand them. And if you know Allah, then that's one step closer towards iman. And tu'minuna billahi wa malaikatihi. If you know that you have the angels that are on either side, you will start to be a little bit more cautious about all the things that you do. And if you want to be the best worshipper, wallahi, mashallah, I heard this really good lecture that happened in Taraweeh. The guy said, the Rasul ﷺ said, if you stay away from sin, you will be the best worshippers. He did not say if you do all these good deeds, this. He said if you stay away from sins. So if you fear the sins and you make sure you're very cautious about staying away from sins, automatically you are considered the best worshipper. That's it. So if you know that you've got the angels on either side and they're watching you and they're writing every single good deed and bad deed that you do, now you're a bit more cautious. When you're a bit more cautious, what is that? That's taqwa of Allah. And Allah puts extra barakah in it and makes you more conscious of Him. When you're more conscious of Him, your iman is automatically up. Isn't that right? And then أَن تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ. So now you have to start reading the Quran. You have to start listening to the Quran. Because the Quran in itself is a shifa, it's a cure, it's a healer. It's a healer for the hearts, for the mind, you know. So the more you read the Quran, the more you listen to the Quran as opposed to music, then the more your heart is going to be a little bit more cleaner, and you start to take in the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a bit more, and then your iman is going to increase. Yeah? And wa rusulihi, get to know the messenger. You want to know Allah? Get to know the messenger.
The best of us.
The Rasul ﷺ said, if you want to love Allah, if you want Allah to love you, فَاتَّبِعُونِي. So follow me. How can you follow Him if you don't know who He is and what He does and what His story is all about? So maybe for you, it's all about getting to know the messenger, learn his story from the start. I know you know it. Maybe you already know it. But it's okay, revisit it. I know a lot of the times, exactly, a lot of the times I can go back and listen to a lecture about the Prophet ﷺ and learn something completely brand new. Or maybe it will just hit me differently. And that will boost your iman up a little bit more. وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. And you believe that there is a day of judgment. If you believe there is a day of judgment, now it automatically puts everything into perspective. So now you're going to act accordingly. And having your mindset change a lot of the times requires your behavior change. So when you change your behavior, automatically you start to look at things a little bit different. Now you're rebranding yourself because you're acting differently and you're behaving differently because now you've put things into perspective. Thought power, basically, you know. And then wal qadar is also putting things into perspective. Believing that certain things that are outside of your control all happens because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed already. So I think as a foundation, maybe just start there, because you know what iman is. It involves 6 pillars. So know what these 6 pillars are about and dissect each one. It could be that all you need to do is just dissect one of those pillars and automatically you will find your chain reaction. All the others will start to boost up. There's no sure way for us to give you this is what you need to do, and automatically because if that was the case, the Rasul ﷺ would have given them, this is his companions, this is what you need to do. But that's not what he did, right?
It's the complete message.
It's the complete message.
Take a bite at it from one side.
That's it.
I can't remember the exact hadith, but when the Prophet ﷺ was leaving Medina, he was with Mu'adh bin Jabal. And he gave me 3 advice. I can't remember the advices, but inshallah, after I'll look it up and put it up for the viewers, the full hadith. One of them was, every bad you do, replace it with good. So that good replaces the bad. And every bad action you do, every sin that you do, and knowing that and that's actually a good, knowing that you've done that bad thing today, replace it with good, so that good replaces the bad. So that actually, and the other 2 advices I can't remember on top of my head, but I'll look it up inshallah. And
sometimes it's not even like for some people it is sins. The more sins they do, the less their iman becomes, right? And all they need to do is just stay away from the sins. But for other people, sometimes they could be the best of worshippers, but still their iman dips. Like some of the companions came to the Prophet ﷺ and said to him, when I'm with you, when I'm praying salah with you, my iman is so high and my love for you is so high, but then the minute I go back home, I feel like I'm a hypocrite because I don't have that love, that iman, the same boost until the next salah, and I see you again. And he said, this is the iman of the believer. It goes up and down. That's basically how it is, right? So it may not just be sins that's causing you. It may be just the fact that you need to revisit you know, all these different pillars, and just
Yeah.
get to know it a bit more.
The other thing that usually works, and also an advice from the Prophet ﷺ, is remind yourself of the akhirah. Go visit a grave. Go visit the graveyard. It really puts this life into perspective.
Absolutely.
That, you know, if you're somebody that's, you know, considering, you know, doing haram, dealing in interest, all these things, when you go visit a grave and you realize
What's it all for?
what's it all for? The rich, the poor, the black, the white, all end up in a hole,
Yep.
6 feet down.
3 things go with the dead body, 1 stays.
And 2 things come back.
2 things come back, you know
And
what I mean?
your wealth comes back and your family comes back.
You could
But
be
your
the
deeds stay with you, what you've done, what you've left. And that's, in essence, what you leave behind in this world. Your money gets divided up between your family, it's gone. Within the week, it's gone. Your family carry on with their lives. You know what I mean? And they each follow their lives. Each of them, when their time comes, same thing happens. The thing that you leave behind, that when people think back, is not how much money you had. Your money's gone. It's not how much
It's the
your family
legacy.
loved you, your family. It's what you've left behind,
Yeah.
the legacy.
Yeah.
You were a person that you know used to care about people. That used to have good character, and all these things. Caring about people, good character, charity. All these things. If they're good things that people remember you by, it means your life was well lived.
pious children.
If
Yeah.
your life was well lived, inshallah you get the reward for it. Inshallah your iman was at a state where, you know.
You know,
inshallah,
that's
it's
actually,
easy.
yeah, I like that, because when you think about it, the legacy is the only thing that will stand for you and or against you, right?
Or
Because
against
like your money and all the other stuff, yes, but like when you pass away and your money is divided up, it's no longer there.
It's no longer there.
And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala questions you, He doesn't say to you,
How much money have you left behind?
yeah, or how much money do you have, and
Yeah.
that's an additional
No,
point on the scale
exactly.
for you. No, it doesn't work like
What
that.
did you do with your money?
Exactly, that's what you get asked.
Yeah.
So who you were, what's the legacy that you left
Exactly.
behind, with the resources that I gave you, with the skills that I gave you, right? And who your family is. I don't care whether you're, you know, from a noble family or not, or a noble lineage or
Exactly.
whatever, right?
But
That's
your
not going to
relationship
add.
to your family.
Exactly. What
So
you
how
did
you
with the
do-
resources I gave you. You have this friend who has this immense capability to do certain things and gave you the opportunity, and you didn't take
Exactly.
it. You know what I mean? Like, or you did not actually convince him to say, look, let's go out and let's build a well for you know the people in certain areas, or whatever the opportunity may be. But the one thing that will stand for you is if you were a really good person, if you were a pious
Actions,
person,
your actions.
if your actions, what you do here, the legacy that you leave behind, that affects the ummah, that affects the generations to come in the most positive way, that will be sent towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will actually add towards your scale.
Have you guys been to burial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're standing there at the burial, there's only one thing that goes through your mind. There's only one thing that goes through your mind. I could be next. There's
That-
no guarantee that you're gonna get to your
Not
car.
I could be next, that's going to be me.
No, but I mean like
You don't know when.
right now you think like, you know, you plan
That could
I
be
know,
me.
the future.
I know.
I could be next, like the
Driving
next person
home.
literally get buried tomorrow.
Let me
Could
tell you,
be
bro.
me.
Let me tell you something.
But we could not reach the next Ramadan.
Exactly.
Let me tell you, boy, something. When my grandma passed away, alhamdulillah. Before, I remember I was younger. I went, well, you know how the last 10 days
Yeah.
you stay in the mosque. I remember. Best thing is for the view. I'm not saying go, like, but the thing is, if you want, you know how you're talking about the grave. If
Yeah.
you want to boost your iman, change your life around.
Yeah.
Best thing is to go see a dead person, bro. Remember, I was little. We were staying last 10 days at the mosque back in high school, man. The guy, one of the sheikhs was like, come here, call us. Came down, and then they did already the ghusl on the body. He said,
Yeah.
come, do this. Like, I was like, nah. And he said, come. This is your, like, as in, this is your destiny, like,
Yeah,
you know what I
it's where
mean?
you're
This
gonna
is
be.
where you're gonna be, man, you know?
Yeah.
And we went there.
How old were you?
I think about 15, 14, around there.
Alright, so you're still, yeah,
Well,
you're
no,
pretty.
kid, man. And then you see that, and then you're like, it wakes you up, bro.
I get
subhanallah.
that
But the biggest
reminder.
Waking up.
waking up, Allah alhamdulillah, my grandma passed away. When you go in the grave
Yeah.
and you see where you
That
put the person and you put him down, bro.
The sand starts covering
Look, you know, you're sad and all that, your family passed away, but you're still thinking.
Yeah.
You're thinking.
That's
It's a
gonna be
whole
me.
different experience, bro. SubhanAllah, man.
So then
Yes,
at
that-
that point, what you think about is when I'm laid to rest here finally,
Yeah.
what have I left behind? Right?
Yep.
So you start to question the path that you're on.
Yep.
That's true.
Then you start to change certain things. And with that change, inshallah, your iman gets boosted up as well.
You get scared of how quick it can happen.
Bro,
Yeah.
'Cause
That's
I
what
wo-
scares
I
people
work
the
at
most.
I work at a
Definitely.
hospital, and it
definitely.
happens all the time. It actually happened on Friday, because I work at the operational theaters.
Yeah.
So one of the older men, he came out of the surgery. The surgery's already over.
Yeah.
And when he was complaining about a few things, the nurses saw him. I left, I came back, and all you hear is some thumping sounds, and they're doing CPR. And I leave, and I come back 2 minutes later, and they're calling, he's trying to find his family.
Yeah.
And then, I go on my break, and I come back, and all I see is like doors closing and stuff like that, and just like a room full of people just in tears.
That's
And
it.
that's like in what, in the span of half an hour? Like it can go like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you gotta really, like just like you said, just having that thought, like that it can happen at any time, like
Exactly.
what am I up to? And the fact that like your destiny can change a moment before. Like you could have been the best of all of them, and then you commit an haram, a big haram, and then you pass away like that.
Exactly.
Who knows your fate?
Exactly.
You could have been the worst of all of them, and then you could have made repentance. You could be, in ruku' and
One
sujood.
accepted deed could save you.
And one
And
of
it's
the
gone.
other things is like even like having that pious children. Obviously, sadaqah jariyah when they call it is something that comes to your grave. Why? Because of your deeds that you've left
Yeah.
behind, and that comes down
Continuous
to
deeds
that comes down to legacy again,
Mm.
such as children. Obviously,
Yep.
building mosques,
Absolutely.
helping things,
Absolutely.
charity. These are something that
The
you've
legacy
got to
that
work
you
for
leave
while you're here.
behind.
That will
Exactly.
affect you in
Yeah.
akhirah before you leave, before you meet your Lord. And it's amazing because one of the sheikhs who's in a local suburb in Africa, he passed away and he had 3 kids, 3 boys, and he was building a mosque at that time. He didn't finish, so his boys, what they did was they finished that mosque for him, and on top of that they did a sort of a Quran competition. They opened a duksi, like a Quran school inside the mosque, and then he passed away just before Ramadan, and when next Ramadan was approaching, they did a Quran competition, and then they literally paid everything on, gave every
Paid for everything.
yeah, the prizes were coming out of their pockets, so that they did that not only for themselves, so that they get reward for
The dad.
yeah.
Mashallah.
Amazing, you always hear when parents and they pass away, they always make a dua for their father who passed away, their grandfather who passed away, because that dua is going to reach them. It's going to reach them
Exactly.
directly.
The thing is, like, in terms of good deeds, you don't have to do everything.
Yeah.
You just have to do something.
Yeah.
That's all. Because it's not about quantity when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Quality and sincerity.
It's about the quality and
And
sincerity. Why do I say that? Because on the day of judgment, your deeds will be weighed. They won't be counted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So don't worry about trying to do this, that, this. Maybe you don't have the barakah in your time just yet.
Yeah.
You will get the barakah if you start to do something. So just do one
Exactly.
thing, maintain it, be consistent at that, and then build on that. That's all it is.
Mashallah, man. I think that will finish up for today. It was a lovely discussion, especially the last question was really needed. I think for myself personally as well.
Yeah, for everything.
No, a lot of the stuff that we discuss here is to try and wake ourselves up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
before we
hits the viewers.
yeah. But if the viewers take benefit from it and apply it in their lives, alhamdulillah. But yeah,
But on that note, man, I think we'll wrap it up. I know you boys are counting the time till iftar. But inshallah, we'll resume next week.
Inshallah.
Until then,
Assalamu alaikum.
Ramadan Mubarak as always, and catch you guys next week.
um,
Salam.